Welcome to CardioRisk CIMT walkthrough part 1. This is going to be a two-part series, the most comprehensive understanding and explanation of a CardioRisk CIMT scan you'll find anywhere on the internet for lay people. Stay tuned. For those of you who might be watching this as the first video on my channel, you've been missing me nagging everybody, my subscribers, to go get a CardioRisk CIMT ultrasound done of the neck. They're the best company for assessing stroke risk, no radiation, $250, and it's an indirect assessment of your heart attack risk. It's a scan you can repeat as often as you like, and everybody needs to get it. So go to CardioRisk.com, sign up. You don't need a doctor's prescription. You can work with a practitioner if you want to, or you can just do it on your own. Get your report, then watch this video so you can understand exactly what it means in layperson speak, because that's how I'm going to talk to you today. This is going to be a two-part series, okay? The second video I'm going to make on this is going to be going beyond what's on the CardioRisk report and putting together information that health optimizers might want to pay attention to. So let's go back in time to June of 2025 when I was 57 years old and I got my first ever CardioRisk CIMT scan done. Let's put that on the screen. You can see the headline number. At the age of 57, I was told I had the arteries of a 78-year-old. I nearly had a heart attack on the spot. How could this be possible? I lead a healthy life. I'm lean, I'm fit, I exercise, I eat well. I had done a coronary CT angiogram just a year earlier. It's a little bit of plaque, but not that bad. And I was suddenly staring at the reality that I might be a higher stroke risk than heart attack risk. Because remember, folks, before we get into the analysis on the report, 50% of events are strokes. Everyone talks about heart attacks. About 1.6 million people will have a heart attack or a stroke, and about half of them will be strokes. And guess what's even more frightening? About 85% of people that have a stroke, it'll be non-fatal. I don't know about you guys, that frightens the daylights out of me. A non-fatal stroke, go back and watch my earlier video on boxing referee Mills Lane. Had a stroke and led the next 20 years of his life compromised, half paralyzed, unable to function fully because he had a non-fatal stroke. I don't want to have a stroke. I don't want to have a heart attack. I assume you don't either. So you need to understand these reports, okay? So the first thing, as you can see on the top line, Arterial Age 78, that correlates to an IMT, intima media thickness, of 0.92 millimeters. What does that mean? The intima is the innermost lining of your arterial wall in your neck, your carotid arteries as they're called. The media is the second innermost lining of your carotid artery. So the intima media thickness is the distance between the two. So you've got common carotid arteries, the main arteries of the neck, and then there's a bulb area where there's a couple of branches of arteries that branch off. So what CardioRisk do is, with their technology, on the right-hand side of the neck, they'll take 300 individual measurements. On the left-hand side of your neck, they'll take 300 individual measurements. The technology they have will then correlate it all and come up with a mean on both sides. Overall, it's like a road. It's thicker in parts and thinner in parts, and they measure it all up and down the highway and give you an overall mean intima media thickness. Mine was 0.92 millimeters. And intima media thickness, the mean, tends to go up as we age, and it correlates with an increased risk of having an event. The studies have shown this, okay? So on the bottom left-hand corner of the CardioRisk report, let's just take a look at that. You can see this chart showing that for men and women, intima media thickness increases as we age. Bit like, we get gray hair as we age. Our bones start to creak as we age. Our arterial wall, that's what I'm talking about here really, in our neck, tends to increase as we age. It's not normal, if you will, to decrease the thickness of your arterial wall. But apparently, someone with an English accent, if we can find him, is decreasing it. Yeah, this number a year ago is in reverse. But that's all my other videos. videos. I just need you to understand what this is for now. So mean IMT is the overall, up and down both sides of your highway, the thickness of your arterial wall. And it correlates to artery age on the chart in the bottom left corner of the report. The next line on the report is early event risk. And there you get a color coding and you get a number. Now, just so you understand, there's only two possibilities for the color coding. Even though there's a third option called yellow moderate, either it's going to be green normal or red high risk. The way that CardioRisk have set this up is there'll never be a yellow moderate for early event risk. There will never be. So you're either green normal or you're high risk. And high risk is defined, if you read the footnotes on the report, as CardioRisk saying you are at elevated risk of having a stroke or a heart attack within the next 5 years, give or take a couple of years. How much is the elevation in your risk will depend on Framingham kind of an analysis, which is outside of the scope of the CardioRisk report. But what they're saying is if you are red color coded for early event risk, you are at increased risk of a stroke or a heart attack within 5 years. So it's either green or it's red. There will never be a moderate in that horizontal section. Now the number, you can see mine was 1.8, and that's 1.8 millimeters. And you can see on the right hand side there's an alert value of 2.0. In other words, again, just to repeat, if my number was 2.0, in other words, just 0.2 higher, because it's 1.8, if it was just 0.2 higher, I would be in the red. So that's how you understand the number in the early event risk vis-a-vis the alert value number. How far away are you from being high risk red? I was 0.2 millimeters away last year. And the number 1.8 millimeters early event risk is, just go down to the comments section. In the comments section, there's 6 individual numbers. I'm going to explain what they are in a second. But that 1.8 millimeters is the biggest value of those 6 numbers. Again, I'm going to explain what the 6 numbers are in a second. I just want you to understand where the early event risk number comes from. It comes from the biggest number of those 6 in the comment sections. The biggest number of those 6 is the single biggest place where you have the greatest thickening, okay? Whether we call it plaque or it's not yet plaque, that is your worst area of thickening. And CardioRisk put that worst area of thickening, whether it's plaque or pre-plaque, in the early event risk number. And if it gets too high, in my case, if it hits the alert value of 2.0, you go red zone, high risk. And by the way, the alert value might be different on your report than mine because it depends on your age. I believe it gets recalibrated every 10 years or so. So think of it this way. That number would be, for most people, the worst plaque lesion that you've got. Plaque lesion would be like a zit. You've got zits of different sizes. Soft zits, mixed zits, hard zits. And if you've got a big zit, a particularly big zit, well, if it gets big enough, meaning if it hits the alert value, CardioRisk are saying that zit is now so bloody big, it might rupture. There's your heart attack, your stroke. So we've got green or we've got red, and the number is your greatest number of the 6 in the comments section. So if you're not red high risk, but you see the numbers not far away from the alert value, if you don't get your act together, you could be looking at a report next time you scan that puts you at high risk. On the next line is listed average CCA mean IMT, and that is simply a repeat of the IMT number on the top of the report. They just put it in a different place, and this time they put an alert value on it. So you can see for mine, the average CCA mean IMT again was 0.92 millimeters. The alert value is cited as 0.73. So in other words, they're saying anything above 0.73 millimeters for the overall mean, the overall thickening of my arteries puts me at elevated risk. And this can have yellow moderate, red high risk. So this can be green, it can be moderate, or it could be red. So you can see that mine was sufficiently high enough to be red. So my mean IMT is just way above where it should be for someone my age, is what this report is telling me. So the next number down, the next metric I should should say down, is average CCA max region. This is a little technical, so I'm going to explain it in really crude layperson terms. Imagine, let's use this analogy again of zits, of areas of thickness between the intima and the media that when it gets too big is going to get called plaque. CardioRisk will say, all right, let's go on the right-hand side of your main carotid artery. Let's find the 3 biggest zits. Each zit is going to be a certain height. We're going to look at the zits in different angles and we're going to come up with a peak. Each zit has a certain peak. The 3 worst on the right. Then let's go over to the left-hand side and let's find the 3 worst zits. These thickness areas that are building, each got a little peak on it, and let's measure the height of those 3 zits. So we've got the 3 worst zits on this side, your thickness areas, your plaque or your pre-plaque, and the 3 worst here, and they measure the peaks of all 6, and then they average them. And that average of the 6 peaks of your 6 worst zits, I told you this was going to be a crude analogy. I told you. The scientists are probably going, I can't believe he's talking about zits. The average of your 6 worst thickness areas is the number that they put in average CCA max region. And you can see mine was 1.07 and the alert value is listed as 0.75. That can be green, orange, yellow moderate, or red high risk. So early event risk, just to remind, it's either green or red, nothing in between. But the mean IMT and the max region, the average CCA max region, can be green, orange, or red. And mine was red. Think about the difference between the mean IMT, again, which is the overall up and down the highway on the left and the right, the arterial wall thickness, 300 measurements here, 300 measurements here. What's the overall mean? And then you compare that to the average of the 6 peaks, the 6 worst zits. An analogy might be, you don't want a bumpy road. In an ideal world, you want a nice smooth road with no bumps in it. A nice smooth artery. But your artery's got bumps in it, lumps in it, right? And so if the worst lumps, the worst bumps, if the distance between that number, the average of the peaks, is quite far away from the mean IMT, then what that's telling you is you've got a particularly bumpy road. And we don't want a bumpy road in our arteries. We want a smooth artery. So hopefully, as you try to improve your report moving forward, the distance between the average CCA max region number and the mean IMT narrows. Again, you want to try and get rid of all the bumps, lower them, make the road smoother. So typically speaking, when you're changing your diet, your lifestyle, and hopefully you are able to regress your mean IMT, chances are you're also going to see a regression in the worst of your 6 zits, your average max CCA region. They tend to go hand in hand, okay? One gets worse, the other gets worse. One gets better, the other gets better. I'm not saying it's like that universally, but certainly in my personal experience, that's how it is. Now we come to the most important part of the report, plaque burden. There's a number. You can see mine was 3.1 millimeters, tagged as high risk. Now, again, plaque burden, a bit like early event risk, it's either going to be green or it's going to be red. Think of it this way. You're either pregnant or you're not. No such thing as, oh, a little bit, just a little bit of plaque. No. CardioRisk say, no plaque. Now, how do they define plaque? CardioRisk define plaque, and this is in the fine print in the report, as any area of thickness that they find when they're measuring the intermediate thickness, any individual area, any bump in the road, any zit, pimple, whatever analogy you want to use, that is greater or equal to 1.3 millimeters in size. So if you look at the comments section, the fine print, there's 6 numbers on the left-hand side of the comments section. And those 6 numbers represent 6 separate areas, 3 on the left, 3 on the right side of your neck. And if they find any of those 6 numbers to be 1.3 millimeters or higher, they're going to call it plaque. Anything that is 1.2 millimeters or lower, they're going to say it's not plaque, it's just a bit of thickening, okay? And you have to have a cutoff somewhere, right? At what point does the intermediate thickness get so thick that you say, well, now it's plaque? CardioRisk have defined it as 1.3 millimeters, which I think is fair enough. Some folks might say, hey, anything above 1's not that great, but CardioRisk say plaque is 1.3 millimeters or higher. And so the color-coded plaque burden number comes from the total sum of all of those 6 numbers that are greater than 1.3 millimeters. So for example, if you've got one of the 6 numbers that's 1.4, 1.4 millimeters, and another of the 6 numbers that's 1.3 millimeters, CardioRisk will report your plaque burden as 2.7 millimeters. That doesn't mean you've got an individual lesion that is 2.7 millimeters. It means that they've added the areas of thickness that are greater than 1.3 millimeters. So look at the 6 numbers. Anything that is 1.3 or higher gets added together, and that's what they call your plaque burden. Now, as you get these reports moving forward, even if it's not 1.3, keep an eye on it. Think about it, right? Imagine you get a report where all 6 numbers in the comments section are 1.2 millimeters. You know what CardioRisk is going to say? Green, no plaque. Yet you're going to know for all 6, if they're all 1.2, just a little smidgen more. Suppose they all went to 1.3 the next time you got the scan done a year later. You would see a massive number for plaque. You'd go from green, nothing to So just keep an eye on the 6 numbers. How far away are you from 1.3 on any of them? Point is this: it's green for no plaque, high risk, plaque. Nothing in the middle. In addition to tagging any area of thickness of 1.3 millimeters as plaque, you can see in the comments section they put a little letter next to any number that is 1.3. There'll be no letter next to a number that's 1.2 or less, because remember, they don't call that plaque. And the options for the letter are S for soft, H for heterogeneous, and E for echogenic. So that is telling you the nature of that plaque. So you've got a 1.3 or higher number, and there's a letter next to it. Letter S next to it means bad news. That is bad news. That's a soft, pussy, plaque, zitty lesion that can rupture and kill you or maim you for life. If it's S, you don't want to see the letter S. H for heterogeneous. That is mixed plaque. It is a little bit more stable than soft, pussy, zitty plaque, but it is not yet fully calcified hard plaque. Still dangerous, just not as dangerous as the fully soft, gooey stuff. The last letter is E for echogenic. That means calcified plaque. Where did they come up with these names, echogenic? I don't know. But it's soft plaque, mixed plaque, or calcified plaque. Officially, soft, heterogeneous, echogenic. Ideally, if your red zone got plaque, you're pregnant as opposed to not being pregnant, you want E, echogenic. And over time, if you're healing the body, you might see a shift from S or H to E, and that's good news. You might never get rid of the plaque that you've built up over the course of your life, but if you can stabilize it, make it like concrete, it's not going anywhere. You'll just end up living with it, and then you'll die of something else. Because I think the best way to look at this is real simple. We all get atherosclerosis as we age, to different degrees. It's a process that begins at birth. Like that chart in the bottom left corner, the lines going up on intermediate thickness. The question, given that we all get it, is whether we die with it or because of it. And if you're able to calcify the plaque that you've got, you'll die with it. Like you'll die with grey hair, creaky bones. The name of the game here is to prevent having a heart attack or a stroke. And most particularly, even though a fatal event, not good news, you don't want a non-fatal event. You don't want to be in a wheelchair. You don't want to be a vegetable. You don't want to be paralyzed. You don't want to be a burden on your family. So please don't have a non-fatal stroke or a heart attack. These numbers in this report are what allow you to gauge whether or not your training is going in the wrong direction. The intermediate thickness line, like I said, the direction upwards, that's part of the aging process. But if you stay tuned to my channel, oh yes, this is a sales pitch. Let's figure out how we can put that train in reverse, okay? Let's figure out how we can, instead of going towards a heart attack or a stroke and hoping that we die of something else before it happens, how about we just move away from it? That's one of the purposes of my channel, why you need to click the subscribe button. That's the essence of this report. So you're going to say, right, Simon, give me the bottom line. What do I do? What's most important when I look at the report? First and foremost, when you get the report, you're going to see the artery age and you're going to go, ooh, or not, whatever. That's not the most important thing. It's the second most important thing. The most important thing is, are you pregnant or not? Now, this is an analogy. Do you have plaque or not? Yes or no? Remember, it's green or red, nothing in between. You have plaque or you're not. If you have plaque, the way you need to get your head straight is this. You've already had a heart attack. You've already had a stroke. Think about it. What would you do if you've already had a heart attack? You already had a stroke. Now you're talking to your cardiologist. It'd be a whole different conversation, wouldn't it? Than if you hadn't. That's how you have to think. If you are red plaque, you're pregnant. Don't go bickering with me. Well, it's only a little bit. It's 3.1, not 3.4. 4, no. I talked to the folks at CardioRisk about this. The plaque burden side of it doesn't really have much clinical meaning unless it moves by 0.6 millimeters or higher. There's a certain noise element here. So the most important thing about plaque is, do you have it or not? Once you've got it, the name of the game moving forward is to try to calcify it if it's not calcified already, and you focus like a maniac on intima media thickness. By extension, the average max CCA region will go with it. You focus like a maniac. Okay, it's very simple. If your intima media thickness is increasing year on year, you have a disease-creating condition inside of you. Whatever's going on is going to be building more plaque. That train is driving towards that heart attack or a stroke. So when you've got the plaque news, you got plaque, you need to say, right, what's my IMT? Next year, it needs to be lower. That's what you do with this report. Because if next year it's even worse, your train is continuing to go down that track towards a heart attack, you're probably going to have more of these plaque lesions in the comments, more areas of 1.3 millimeters or greater, and you're going to be looking at things like, it's not calcified yet, why isn't it calcified? It could rupture at any given moment. Plaque or no plaque? Then you go to IMT. How do you switch that inflammatory process off? You stay tuned to my channel, first of all. you subscribe. So that's the report in a nutshell. I hope this was helpful. Part 2's coming because there's some quirks with the chart that CardioRisk used. I'll tell you one of that, and it's in the bottom right corner. You can read this. The populations that they used, to plot the lines for men and women for intima media thickness going higher with age, it excludes people that died. In other words, that died of the disease. So if you think about it this way, the curves would actually be steeper, worse than what they are on CardioRisk if those people had been included. I mean, I like to make the joke when I look at my IMT, it's sort of funny but not, is I've got the IMT of people that didn't make it. I've got the intima media thickness of a bloody dead person. Great news that is. Thank you very much. I talked to the folks at CardioRisk about this. Because of the way that the population's done, you actually want to be below the line if you're really trying to improve your health and optimize, not just satisfied being on the line. And that's going to be in my second video because I've used AI looking at studies and I said, well, just give me the curves for like the really healthy people. What would that curve look like? Because the CardioRisk curves don't include the dead people, the ones that died, and they're the general population. Well, the general population includes, diabetics, overweight people. What I would love to know is just what's the curve, the IMT, of people that are healthy? And then how can I beat that number? So I'm going to talk about that in part 2 for those that really want to say, hey, I like goals, I like targets, I like numbers. For a person my age and my gender, what is a really good IMT for health optimizers to aim for? All of that's coming in part 2. So if you like my content, please click the subscribe button. If you've got any questions, ask me. And most importantly, I have to nag you. Go get the scan. Seriously. Stop talking about cholesterol for 5 minutes. These numbers are literally going to tell you whether you're going towards a heart attack or a stroke or going away from one. So go find out, okay? If you don't want to get a scan done, then at least update your will, your living healthcare directive, so you end up having a non-fatal event, you're paralyzed, brain dead or whatever, people know what to do with you, okay? I will catch you next time.